is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
In the headlines, in the Middle East, ceasefire denial. Hamas rejects reports of fresh proposals in Gaza, even as new US-backed plan emerge. In Europe, a deepening divide. EU energy warning. Hungary's Viktor Orban and Slovakia's Robert Fico mark a historic anniversary and fire back at Brussels, warning that cutting off Russian energy could cripple the continent. From Tehran, rising tensions, Iran sanctions clash. Iran vows a serious response after the UK, France, and Germany push through the return of international sanctions. Across the Atlantic, tragedy in America's heartland. Michigan church attack. A gunman ramps into a Sunday service, opens fire and sets the building ablaze. At least 4 are dead, including the suspect. In South Asia, Khan supporters protest. Tens of thousands pour into Pakistan's streets, demanding the release of jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan. Also making headlines, Vijay rally tragedy. A campaign stop for actor turned politician Vijay turns deadly in Tamil Nadu, India. More than 40 lives lost in massive crowd crush. Back here at home, Magalong resigns. The palace regrets Mayor Benjamin Magalong's decision to step down from the Anti-Corruption Commission. And inside the Senate, budget insertions issue. Senators defend billions in allocations, insisting not all insertions are bad after revelations of over 100 billion pesos in adds-on to the proposed 2025 budget. And in the world of entertainment, she's back and fiercer than ever. Meryl Streep revives her iconic Miranda Priestly on the Milan runway as The Devil Wears Prada 2 officially kicks off filming. I'm Franco Baranda. Newsline World starts now. Senator Erwin Tulfo appealed to his colleagues in the Senate not to put all their attention solely on the corruption issues in flood control projects and budget hearings. The senator stressed that lawmakers should also address the pressing concerns of the people, such as rising food prices, costly healthcare, lack of access to education, and insufficient job opportunities. Tulfo added that while it is right to scrutinize corruption issues to prevent them from happening again, lawmakers should not lose sight of the problems that directly affect the Filipino people. He noted that the Independent Commission for Infrastructure, the Department of Justice, and the National Bureau of Investigation are already tasked to investigate and file charges against officials involved in the flood control anomaly. Tulfo said it's now high time for the Senate to turn its focus more toward the everyday needs of the people. Senate President Vicente Tito Soto III and Senator J.B. Ejercito issued clarifications after Senator Panfilo Ping Lacson revealed that budget insertions in the proposed 2025 national budget reach more than 100 billion pesos. This report. According to Soto, the so-called amendments or insertions, whether individual or institutional, are part of the regular budget deliberation process in the Senate. He stressed not all amendments should be deemed illegal or improper just because of the issues on ghost projects and failed flood control projects. The Senate President further explained that many of the amendments were intended for additional classrooms, farm-to-market roads, and bridges that would directly benefit people in far-flung provinces. However, Soto admitted that some of these projects were tagged as for later release, meaning they were not immediately funded. He assured the public that for the 2026 budget, the Senate will institute reforms to ensure greater transparency, people's participation, and accountability. For his part, Senator J.V. Ejercito maintained that not all amendments are bad, especially when they are meant to strengthen the programs and projects of government agencies. He added that insertions only become problematic when there is post-enactment intervention or interference after the passage of the budget. Earlier, Senator Lacson disclosed that insertions by some senators reach more than 100 billion pesos, with many listed as FLR. He warned that projects worth billions of pesos could become questionable and may even pose risk to the economy. Lacson emphasized that it is high time for Congress to regain the public's trust through a clearer, more transparent, and pork-free national budget. Masbate Airport has reopened after sustaining an estimated 10 to 15 million pesos in damages caused by Typhoon Opong, internationally known as Buaboy. The Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, or CAAP, says immediate clearing and safety measures were carried out to ensure the safety of passengers. After an inspection by Acting Transportation Secretary Giovanni Lopez last Saturday, CAAP ensured the prompt arrival of repairs, supplies, and the reinforcement of standby inventory for other operational needs. The passenger terminal building has been declared safe after debris and hazardous ceiling materials were removed. Temporary roofing has been installed, and power and internet connections have been fully restored. However, CAAP clarified that the resumption of regular flights will still depend on the airline companies. The agency also assured travelers that necessary improvement will continue to maintain safe, reliable, and efficient air travel for everyone. A political rally in India turned deadly Saturday night when a massive crowd surge left dozens dead and many others injured during an event for actor-turned-politician Vijay. Justin Nazario for the rest of the details.
Authorities confirmed at least 40 people were killed and more than 50 injured after thousands of supporters pressed toward Vijay's campaign vehicle in Karur district, Tamil Nadu. The crowd had waited for hours without enough food or water before the actor arrived in the evening to address them from atop a campaign truck. Vijay, who leads the Tamilaga Vetri Kazagan party, expressed grief on social media, calling the incident unbearable pain and offering condolences to the victims' families. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has ordered an investigation and announced 1 million rupees in compensation for each family of the deceased. This is not the first time the party's events have faced safety concerns. 6 people died during its launch rally in October last year. Justin Nazario, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Coming up, in the Middle East, ceasefire denial. Hamas rejects reports of fresh proposals in Gaza, even as a new U.S.-backed plan emerges. More news when we come back.
Isang pindot lang, pwede kang maka-jackpot. Mukhang masaya at easy money lang. Sa murang halaga, pwede ka na tumaya sa online gambling at e-casino apps. Mayroong sabong, slot machines, mahjong, poker at iba pa. Kailangan mo lang ng smartphone, e-wallet at internet. Pero ang aliw na ito, unti-unting nagiging bitag para sa mga Pilipino. Lalo na kung ang paborito mong artista o influencer ang mukha ng app. Mas madaling makaengganyo, diba? Parang safe naman kasi may kilalang mukha. Pero sa likod ng ngiti, sugal pa rin ang itinutulak. At syempre, mas madali ring itago ang pagkalulong sa bisyong ito. Walang pisikal na kasino o pasugalan, walang kaharap, walang accountability, kaya't mas lumalala ang adiksyon. Dagdag pa rito, maraming online gambling apps at walang regulasyon. Sa likod ng mga makukulay na interface at papremyo, nakatago ang problemang bumabalot ngayon sa bansa. Ang pagkalulong ng maraming Pilipino sa online gambling. Pwede maglaro kahit saan, kahit kailan, kahit sino, bata man o matanda, pwedeng malulong. Ayon sa mga eksperto, ang pagkakalulong sa online gambling ay nagdudulot ng matinding stress at anxiety, pagkakabaon sa utang, pagkawasak ng pamilya, pagkawala ng tiwala sa sarili. At tulad ng ibang bisyo, may mga senyales ito tulad ng hindi makapagpigil kahit walang pera, palihim na tumataya, pagpapabaya sa trabaho, pamilya o sarili. Sa bawat taya, may mga taong tunay na kumikita, mga malalaking negosyante at investors na negosyo ang bisyo ng masa. Para sa kanila, perang pumapasok lang ito, pero para sa ordinaryong Pilipino, kabuhayan at relasyon ang nauubos. At ang masakit, tila matagal itong nahayaan. Hindi ito naging prioridad ng mga nakaupo sa taas hanggang sa sobrang lumala at halos naapektuhan na ang buong komunidad. Ngayon, sa dami ng nalulung at sa laki ng pinsalang naidulot, sa kapalalong umugong ang mga panukalang batas para higpitan ng online gambling, gaya ng pagbabawal sa paggamit ng e-wallets para tumaya, pagtaas ng minimum bet, mas mahigpit na identity verification, pag-block ng mga illegal na gambling sites, at bawasan o ipagbawal ang mga ads na target ang kabataan. Maaari itong magmukhang laro lang, pero sa katotohanan, isa itong sugal sa kinabukasan. Ang kita na dapat sa mga pangunahing pangangailangan o ipon na uubos sa sugal. At sa mundo ng online gambling, mas madali kang matalo kaysa manalo. Huwag hayaang sugal ang magdikta sa iyong buhay. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama, nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika, at lahat ng masasamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod, pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakaka-depress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman dyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay na content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse. Magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
Rescue operations are underway in central Vietnam after 2 cargo ships sank off Quang Tri province while seeking shelter from rough seas brought by an approaching typhoon. Authorities confirmed 2 people drowned and 2 others remained missing after the vessels from Baria Vung Tau went down just 1.5 kilometers from shore on Saturday.
Kia bị bên sóng quấn chìm, đập vô đá chìm hết trơn rồi, 2 người rồi.
Nó có áo phao không?
Dạ.
Có áo phao hay là
không có mặc áo phao gì lúc tàu cứu hộ ra đây rồi sóng quá ra cứu không được rồi chạy vô chút xíu rồi tàu em nó bể nát hết trơn luôn rồi, đâu có chỗ đợi tựa đâu, chỉ có một miếng mớp thôi.
9 survivors were pulled from the water, including Nguyen Van Truong, who recounted being swept away by waves and clinging to a buoy before being rescued.
Không biết tại sao quýnh em nói là em chết ở đây chỉ giái sao mà vô em sống em đi ăn chay cạo đầu tự nhiên quýnh lượng đó em chìm dưới nổi lên quýnh thêm lượng đó là văng vô tới trụ luôn đó. Có sợi dây
trụ là có sợi dây bởi mình nửa dây đó được chưa
có thấy người nhưng mà em kêu là đừng có ai ra là chết hết. Tại vì em biết là không thể nào cứu được, tại vì ra đó là nó giặt 1 lượng 2 lượng là chìm. Em sức em khỏe lắm đó mà nhưng mà em còn chịu không nổi, 2 kia yếu quá quýnh mấy lượng chết luôn.
Emergency teams have deployed drones and patrol vessels along the coastline as search efforts continue. The incident occurred as Vietnam braces for Typhoon Bualoy, expected to make landfall Sunday after killing at least 10 people in the Philippines. Officials said around 100,000 military personnel have been mobilized nationwide to assist in evacuations and disaster response. Hamas is pushing back, denying reports that it has received fresh proposals for a ceasefire in Gaza, even as international outlets highlight a new US-backed plan. Here's the report. Hamas insists they did not receive any new proposals for a ceasefire in Gaza. In a statement released Sunday, Hamas said negotiations have been stalled since the failed assassination attempt on September 9 in Doha, when an Israeli strike targeted the group's offices, killing 5 Hamas members and a Qatari security officer. Hamas says it remains open to reviewing any proposals from mediators positively and responsibly as long as Palestinian national rights are preserved. The denial comes as international media report on a new proposal from US President Donald Trump. The plan reportedly lays out 21 points. Among them, Hamas handing over all hostages, living or dead, within 48 hours, a phased Israeli military withdrawal from Gaza, the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. The plan also includes setting up an interim technocratic government, one that excludes Hamas from power. To recall, last week Trump announced he was close to securing a deal to end the war in Gaza and facilitate the release of hostages. His comments come after the White House proposed a 21-point Middle East peace plan during meetings with Arab leaders at the UN General Assembly also last week.
I think we have maybe a deal on Gaza, very close to a deal on Gaza. How are you? Hello, Peter. And it's looking like we have a deal on Gaza. And we'll let you know. I think it's a deal that will get the hostages back. It's going to be a deal that will end the war. It's going to be a deal which it's going to be peace. I think we have a deal.
China, Japan, and South Korea have adopted a new joint action plan to strengthen environmental cooperation for the next 5 years. The plan was unveiled at the 26th Tripartite Environment Ministers meeting in Yantai, China, and focuses on 8 priority areas to strengthen trilateral collaboration through 2030. China's Minister of Ecology and Environment, Wang Runchao, highlighted past successes under 3 previous phases, including air pollution control, sandstorm prevention, and chemical management. Huang said the new plan aims to enhance regional green development, improve citizens' environmental well-being, and advance shared environmental interests. This year's meeting implements agreements reached at the 9th Trilateral Summit held last year, focusing on green transformation, sustainable development, and climate change. The tripartite environment minister meeting is the highest level of environmental dialogue among the three countries and has been hosted annually in rotation since 1999. When we come back, in Europe, a deepening divide, EU energy warning, Hungary's Viktor Orban and Slovakia's Robert Fico mark a historic anniversary and fire back at Brussels, warning that cutting off Russian energy could cripple the continent. And in South Asia, Khan supporters protest. Tens of thousands pour into Pakistan streets, demanding the release of jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan. More news after the break.
Sa tuwing bumabaha, hindi lang seguridad ang nalalagay sa alanganin, pati na rin ang kalusugan. Isa sa mga bantang dapat iwasan, ang leptospirosis. Ano nga ba ito? Ito ay isang sakit na dulot ng bakterya na tinatawag na leptospira. Nakukuha ito sa pamamagitan ng contact sa ihi ng mga hayop na may leptospira tulad ng mga daga. Pwede itong makuha sa pagsulong sa baha o pag-inom ng kontaminadong tubig. Nakakapasok ito sa katawan sa pamamagitan ng mga sugat, mata, ilong o bibig. Ang mga sintomas nito ay lagnat, mapulang mata, hirap umihi, masakit na tiyan, masakit na kalamnan, at masakit na ulo. Paano nga ba maiiwasan ang leptospirosis? Ugaliin ang tamang pagtatapon ng basura dahil ang mga maruruming lugar ang kadalasang pinupuntahan ng dagang may dalang leptospirosis. Iwasang lumusong, maglaro o lumangoy sa baha, lalo na kapag may sugat. Gumamit ng bota at gloves kung hindi maiiwasang lumusong sa tubig baha. Sumpuin ang mga daga sa bahay at panatilihin ang kalinisan sa komunidad. Hugasan ng malinis na tubig at sabon ang mga paa matapos lumusong sa baha. Sa kalinisan ng bawat isa, nakasalalay ang kaligtasan ng buong komunidad. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI.
Hoy, magnanakaw! Tingin! Pulis ka!
Hala, magnanakaw!
Magnanakaw! Magnanakaw!
Hoy, magnanakaw!
Magnanakaw! Magnanakaw!
Ano kayang gagawin ko? Ipamimigay ko yung konti para tumigil sila sa pag-iingay.
Pare, magnanakaw, namimigay ng pera.
Ito ang sayo.
Wow! Ang bait ng magnanakaw!
Ito naman sayo.
Kuya, yung
Eto
share ko! Sana
Huwag ka nang maingay. Eto pa. Tama na yan. Nakikipalato lang kayo eh. Huwag nang maingay. Diba? Konti lang pinamigay ko. Mabait na ako. Tahimik na sila. Easy. Ngayon, pwede ko na tong suluhin.
Masaya ang mga tao, pero tama po ba ito? Di po ba ang nakikinabang sa magnanakaw ay kasabwat ng magnanakaw?
Ikaw, kinukonsenti mo ba ang legal na korupsyon?
Sa kabila ng mga mas modernong kaalaman at teknolohiya, nananatiling matindi ang banta ng HIV sa Pilipinas. Pero gaano nga ba kalala ang sitwasyon? Ang HIV o Human Immunodeficiency Virus ay isang sakit na sumisira sa immune system ng katawan. Ngunit tandaan, hindi ito nakukuha sa simpleng pakikisalamuha. Hindi mo agad mararamdaman, pero unti-unti nitong pinapahina ang katawan. At kapag hindi naagapan, humahantong ito sa AIDS, ang huling yugto na impeksyon, kung saan halos wala ng panlaban ng katawan laban sa sakit. Patuloy na dumadami ang kaso ng sakit na ito sa Pilipinas. Isang nakababahalang pagtaas Umabot na sa 500% ang itinaas ng HIV cases sa mga kabataang edad 15 hanggang 25. Ayon mismo sa Department of Health, 56 na bagong kaso ang naitatala kada araw sa bansa mula Enero hanggang Marso 2025. At ang pinakamatinding apektado, ang kalalakihan at kabataang Pilipino. Dahil dito, ang Pilipinas na ngayon ang may pinakamataas na bilang ng bagong kaso ng HIV sa buong Western Pacific region. Isang indikasyon ng lumulubahang sitwasyon. Kaya nananawagan ng Department of Health gawing opisyal at urgent ang laban sa HIV sa pamamagitan ng isang Public Health Emergency Declaration. Kalalakihan ng pangunahing apektado. 95% ng bagong kaso ay lalaki. Mahigit 1/4 ay kabataang nasa edad 15 hanggang 24. Habang wala pang deklarasyon, patuloy ang DOH sa mga sumusunod na hakbang: HIV testing, libreng gamot, self-test kits, at pakikipagtulungan sa DepEd para sa edukasyon sa mga paaralan. Isinulong rin ng DOH ang online patient appointment system para sa HIV patients. Layunin nitong gawing mas madali at mas personal ang pag-access sa libreng gamutan at konsultasyon ayon sa schedule ng pasyente. Ang HIV ay hindi tulad ng flu. Hindi ito basta naipapasa sa hangin. Ito ay naipapasa sa pamamagitan ng personal na desisyon. Kailangan din nating pagtuunan ng pansin ang ugali, disiplina at personal na responsibilidad. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
Thousands of supporters of Pakistan's jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan flooded the streets of Peshawar this weekend. They're demanding his immediate release. For more, we go to Jillian Gutierrez.
It was one of the biggest rallies since Khan's imprisonment, with his party insisting he's the victim of political persecution. Chanting supporters waved flags of Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf or PTI party, many holding portraits of the former leader.
ये जमहूरी कुव्वत नहीं है, ये अमरी कुव्वत है। ये जुल्म जबर का निज़ाम मजीद नहीं चलेगा, लेकिन इस कौम को खड़ा होना पड़ेगा। इमरान खान के साथ खड़ा होना पड़ेगा।
जब कौम निकलेगी, खान निकलेगा, जो 3 साल से हमारा महबूब कैदे पाबंद सलासल में है, वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ शाम राज के साथ टक्कर लेने की वजह से है। और ये हमारी पूरी पाकिस्तानी कौम से अपील है, हम निकलेंगे तो खान निकलेगा।
The protest was organized by PTI lawmakers in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province with support from the regional government. Chief Minister Ali Amin Gandapur joined the rally alongside senior PTI leaders. Khan has faced nearly 180 cases since being ousted in 2022. Earlier this year, he was sentenced for 14 years in prison for corruption. Charges he says are politically motivated. For now, his supporters say they'll keep marching until he walks free. Jillian Gutierrez, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
In Europe, history and politics met on the border of Hungary and Slovakia. Prime Minister Viktor Orban and Robert Fico marked the 130th anniversary of the Maria Valeria Bridge and used the occasion to warn the European Union that cutting off Russian energy could devastate their economies and the rest of the continent. Sara Santos for more details.
The two leaders gathered at the historic bridge which links Esztergom in Hungary and Sturovo in Slovakia. Built in 1895, the Maria Valeria Bridge was destroyed twice, in 1919 and again during World War II. It stood in ruins for over 50 years before being rebuilt and reopened in 2001 as a symbol of reconciliation. But the message from the border was not only about unity. Orban and Fico pushed back against growing European pressure to end their exemptions from sanctions on Russian oil and gas.
Politické, ideologické rozhodnutie odstrihnúť Európu úplne od dodávok týchto palív z Ruska poškodí nielen najviac Maďarsko a Slovensko, ale výrazne poškodí celú Európsku úniu.
Both countries still rely heavily on Russian oil and gas delivered through Soviet-era pipelines, such as the Druzhba. Fico stressed that energy sovereignty is a national right.
Nikto by nám nemal prikazovať, odkiaľ budeme brať ropu a plyn, pretože podľa medzinárodného práva je to suverénna krajina, ktorá rozhoduje o svojom energetickom mixe.
Brussels has charted a different course under the Repower EU strategy. The European Union aims to phase out dependence on Russian fossil fuels, calling it vital for long-term security. Since Russia's 2022 offensive, the EU has passed 18 rounds of sanctions, with the 19th now in preparation. Orban and Fico warned that moving too fast could spark major economic disruption at home. For now, the commemoration at the Maria Valeria Bridge served two purposes: celebrating a symbol of cross-border unity and highlighting a deep divide in Europe over how to balance history, energy and security. Reporting Sarah Santos, SMNI News.
Iran is rejecting the return of the United Nations sanctions, saying the move by Western powers is both illegal and unjustified. Iran's foreign ministry issued a rebuke on Sunday, just hours after France, Britain, Germany, and the United States reimposed sanctions that had been lifted under the 2015 nuclear deal. Tehran argues the resolutions were annulled by UN Resolution 2231 and says no obligation arises for Iran or other members. It accused Western powers of abusing the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Actions dispute mechanism and warned any move against Iran's interest will meet a resolute response. Foreign Minister Sayed Abbas Arachi also told UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres the snapback process was a clear abuse.
Iran's position on snapback is clear. It is illegal, void, and has no standing. The E3, having breached the deal, cannot claim significant non-performance. Resolution 2231 restrictions will expire permanently on 18 October 2025. Any attempt to revive or extend them is null and void. We call on the Secretary General to stay clear of any role in reviving expired sanctions. Those who pursue these unlawful paths will bear full responsibility for damaging the United Nations' credibility and for the humanitarian impact on the Iranian people. This dangerous precedent must not stand.
The Security Council failed last week to extend sanctions relief, clearing the way for measures to snap back into place Saturday night.
If agreements can be broken at will, no nation can trust international commitments. If unlawful measures are enforced by power instead of law, the Security Council itself will lose authority.
Europe, after the United Kingdom, France, and Germany reinstated international sanctions, accusing Iran of failing to honor its commitments. But Iranian leaders say the move is illegal. More on this with Almar Farsuelo.
Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf on Sunday condemned the United Kingdom, France and Germany for reimposing international sanctions on Tehran, calling the move illegal and promising retaliation. Ghalibaf said Iran does not recognize the snapback mechanism and will not suspend uranium enrichment, which he argued remains permitted under international law.
جمهوری اسلامی ایران اجرای اسنپبک و بازگشت قطعنامه‌های تحریمی را غیر قانونی می‌داند و با توجه به اینکه روسیه و چین به عنوان دو کشور دائم شورای امنیت در بیانیه رسمی و در مواضع علنی بر این امر تصریح کرده‌اند، هیچ کشوری الزامی به رعایت آنها ندارد. در همین راستا ایران نیز خود را ملزم به رعایت این قطعنامه‌های غیرقانونی از جمله تعلیق غنیسازی نمی‌داند و معتقدیم همچنان امروز حق غنیسازی ما مورد تأیید قوانین بین المللی قرار دارد. در صورتی که کشوری بخواهد بر اساس این قطعنامه‌های غیرقانونی اقدامی علیه ایران انجام دهد، با اقدام متقابل و جدی ایران روبرو خواهد شد و 3 کشور اروپایی بانی این اقدام غیرقانونی هم واکنش ما را خواهند دید.
He warned that any country acting on the sanctions will witness a reciprocal and serious response from Iran.
ایران انواع روش‌های دیپلماتیک را در چارچوب رعایت منافع ملی به کار گرفت تا این موضوع حل فصل شود یا به تأخیر بیفتد که توافق قاهره فقط یکی از آنها بود.
The three European governments known as the E3 reactivated the sanctions mechanism under the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action after accusing Iran of failing to meet its nuclear commitments. Iran rejected the accusation, pointing to its September agreement with the International Atomic Energy Agency, brokered by Egypt to restore suspended cooperation. Russia and China opposed the sanctions and pushed a resolution at the United Nations Security Council to delay the move, but it failed to pass on Friday. The E3 triggered the process at the end of August, and the 30-day deadline expired on the 27th of September, automatically restoring the measures without a new council vote. Reporting for Newsline World, Almar Forzuelo, SMNI News.
After the break, across the Atlantic, tragedy in America's heartland. Michigan church attack. A gunman rams into a Sunday service, opens fire, and sets the building ablaze. At least 4 are dead, including the suspect. And in the world of entertainment, she's back and fiercer than ever. Meryl Streep revives her iconic Miranda Priestly on the Milan runway as The Devil Wears Prada 2 officially kicks off filming. Newsline World will be back after the break.
Maging ligtas, maging handa. Narito ang ilang paalala kung sakaling tumama ang lindol. Maghanda ng emergency kits na may lamang flashlight, pito, first aid kit, tubig at pagkain. Alamin ang emergency exits sa inyong bahay, paaralan o opisina. Habang lumilindol, magtago sa ilalim ng matibay na lamesa upang maprotektahan ang sarili sa mga nahuhulog na bagay. Lumayo sa mga bintana at mabibigat na gamit na maaaring mahulog. Kung ikaw ay nasa labas, lumayo sa mga gusali, puno o poste na maaaring matumba. Kung ikaw ay nagmamaneho, itabi at ihinto ang sasakyan at lumabas. Pagkatapos ng lindol, gamitin ang hagdan sa paglabas ng gusali at huwag gumamit ng elevator. Maging alerto sa aftershocks at manatili sa open space kung kinakailangan. Maging ligtas at maging handa sa anumang sakuna. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI.
Ikaw ba ay namomroblema sa taas ng electric bill buwan-buwan? Huwag mag-alala, narito ang ilang paraan upang makatipid sa kuryente. Patayin ang mga ilaw at appliances kapag hindi ginagamit. Sa halip ay gumamit ng natural na liwanag upang makatipid sa kuryente. Tanggalin sa saksakan ang mga appliances kung hindi ginagamit. Iwasan ang paggamit ng maraming appliances ng sabay-sabay. Gumamit ng LED bulbs. Ito ay mas tipid sa kuryente kumpara sa mga incandescent at fluorescent bulbs. Regular na linisin ang mga appliances tulad ng electric fan, aircon vents at refrigerator. Magkaroon ng takdang araw sa isang linggo sa pamamalansya at paglalaba. Gumamit ng energy-efficient appliances. Tandaan, maging wais sa paggamit ng kuryente upang makatipid para mas gumaan ang buhay. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI.
Sa kabila ng mga mas modernong kaalaman at teknolohiya, nananatiling matindi ang banta ng HIV sa Pilipinas. Pero gaano nga ba kalala ang sitwasyon? Ang HIV o Human Immunodeficiency Virus ay isang sakit na sumisira sa immune system ng katawan. Ngunit tandaan, hindi ito nakukuha sa simpleng pakikisalamuha. Hindi mo agad mararamdaman, pero unti-unti nitong pinapahina ang katawan. At kapag hindi naagapan, humahantong ito sa AIDS, ang huling yugto na impeksyon, kung saan halos wala ng panlaban ng katawan laban sa sakit. Patuloy na dumadami ang kaso ng sakit na ito sa Pilipinas. Isang nakababahalang pagtaas. Umabot na sa 500% ang itinaas ng HIV cases sa mga kabataang edad 15 hanggang 25. Ayon mismo sa Department of Health, 56 na bagong kaso ang naitatala kada araw sa bansa mula Enero hanggang Marso 2025. At ang pinakamatinding apektado, ang kalalakihan at kabataang Pilipino. Dahil dito, ang Pilipinas na ngayon ang may pinakamataas na bilang ng bagong kaso ng HIV sa buong Western Pacific region. Isang indikasyon ng lumulubahang sitwasyon, kaya nananawagan ng Department of Health gawing opisyal at urgent ang laban sa HIV sa pamamagitan ng isang Public Health Emergency Declaration. Kalalakihan ng pangunahing apektado, 95% ng bagong kaso ay lalaki, mahigit 1/3 ay kabataang nasa edad 15 hanggang 24. Habang wala pang deklarasyon, patuloy ang DOH sa mga sumusunod na hakbang: HIV testing, libreng gamot, self-test kits, at pakikipagtulungan sa DepEd para sa edukasyon sa mga paaralan. Isinulong rin ng DOH ang online patient appointment system para sa HIV patients. Layunin nitong gawing mas madali at mas personal ang pag-access sa libreng gamutan at konsultasyon ayon sa schedule ng pasyente. Ang HIV ay hindi tulad ng flu. Hindi ito basta naipapasa sa hangin. Ito ay naipapasa sa pamamagitan ng personal na desisyon. Kailangan din nating pagtuunan ng pansin ang ugali, disiplina at personal na responsibilidad. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
Hala, magnanakaw!
Magnanakaw! Magnanakaw!
Uy, magnanakaw!
Magnanakaw! Magnanakaw!
Ano kayang gagawin ko? Ipamimigay ko yung konti para tumigil sila sa pag-iingay.
Pare, magnanakaw, namimigay ng pera.
Eto ang sayo.
Wow! Ang bait ng magnanakaw!
Eto naman sayo.
Kuya, yung share
eto
ko! Sana
Huwag ka nang maingay. Eto pa. Tama na yan. Nakikipalato lang kayo eh. Huwag nang maingay. Diba? Konti lang pinamigay ko, mabait na ako. Tahimik na sila. Easy. Ngayon, pwede ko na tong suluhin.
Masaya ang mga tao, pero tama po ba ito? Di po ba ang nakikinabang sa magnanakaw ay kasabwat ng magnanakaw?
Ikaw, kinukonsenti mo ba ang legal na korupsyon?
For our sports update, two big wins on the global stage. Italy defends its world volleyball crown here in Manila, while Team Europe clinches yet another Ryder Cup in a thrilling showdown against the United States. Carlo De La Peña has more on this.
Italy reaffirmed its dominance on the global stage by defeating Bulgaria 3-1 in the championship match of the FIVB Men's World Championship on Sunday night at the Mall of Asia Arena in Pasay City. In front of thousands of fans, the defending champions took the sets 25-21, 25-17, 17-25, 25-10 to secure their second consecutive crown and fifth world title overall. Bulgaria, meanwhile, settled for its second silver medal and first in more than 5 decades since 1970. Yuri Romano powered the Azzurri with 22 points built on 16 kills, 5 aces and a block. Alessandro Micheletto and Simon Anzani added timely hits, while Mattia Botolo punctuated the win with a run of service aces in the fourth set. The Bulgarians showed grit in the third frame, riding on Alexander Nikolov and Martin Atanasov to cut Italy's momentum. But the Azzurri stormed back in the fourth quickly pulling ahead until Anzani's kill sealed the victory. Nikolov, the tournament's top scorer, finished with 23 points in a valiant effort. In the bronze medal match, world number 1 Poland subdued the Czech Republic 3-1, marking its first ever third-place finish after previously winning 3 golds and 2 silvers. The Philippines hosted the 21st edition of the Men's Championship for the first time, gathering 32 nations from the 21st to the 28th of September. Meanwhile, the Europeans entered the final day with a commanding 7-point lead, needing just 3 more to clinch the trophy. But the United States staged a fierce comeback in the singles, winning match after match to rattle the visitors and ignite the home crowd. Key points came from Shane Lowry, who held a clutch putt on the 18th green to guarantee at least a tie, and Tyrell Hatton, who delivered a decisive half-point that secured Europe's win. Ludwig Averg was the only European to win his singles match outright, while Rory McIlroy, despite heavy heckling, contributed 3 1/2 points over the weekend. The victory cement captain Luke Donald's legacy, becoming only the second European leader after Tony Jacklin to mastermind both home and away wins. For the US, it was heartbreak despite a record-tying 8.5 points in the singles, as Europe once again left with the Ryder Cup in hand. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo de la Peña bringing you the latest sports news.
For today's showbiz update, not 1 but 5 tracks from the animated K-pop sensation K-pop Demon Hunters have slayed the recent Billboard Global 200 chart. Meanwhile, Meryl Streep channels Miranda Priestly front row at Dolce & Gabbana in Milan as cameras roll for The Devil Wears Prada 2. Let's hear more from Stella Maris.
The animated K-pop sensation K-pop Demon Hunters is no longer just an on-screen hit. It's now conquering the global music charts. In a rare feat, 5 tracks from the film's official soundtrack have broken into the top 10 of the Billboard Global 200. Leading the pack is Golden by Hunter X, taking the number 1 spot. Hot on its heels are Soda Pop and Your Idol by the Saja Boys at number 3 and number 4. How It's Done by Hunter X comes in at number 6, while What It Sounds Like rounds out the group at number 8. The Billboard Global 200 tracks the most streamed and sold songs worldwide, showing just how far the K-pop Demon Hunters universe has reached. Backed by powerhouse producers and real K-pop vocalists, the fictional idol groups have gone viral with over 3 billion views across TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Reels. Other top charting hits include Alex Warren's Ordinary at number 2, Somber's Back to Friends at number 5, Sabrina's Tears at number 7, Olivia Dean's Man I Need at number 9, and Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars' Die With a Smile rounding out the top 10. K-pop Demon Hunters is proving that even animated idols can make real-world history. The Dolce & Gabbana runway in Milan turned into a movie set this weekend as Meryl Streep returned to her iconic role as Miranda Priestly. Wearing a vinyl trench and signature shades, Streep made a grand entrance with Stanley Tucci by her side, reprising his role as Nigel. The two watched from the front row as cameras rolled, with the press office confirming it was all for The Devil Wears Prada 2. Adding to the spectacle, Vogue's Anna Wintour, long seen as the inspiration for Miranda, sat directly across from Streep. The 2006 film was a global hit, earning over $326 million and 2 Oscar nods. Now Anne Hathaway and Emily Blunt join Streep again for the sequel, with filming underway in Milan and buzz already building for fashion's most anticipated comeback. This is Stella Maris, your global citizen correspondent, bringing you the latest showbuzz.
In Malacanang, expressed sadness and regret over Mayor Benjamin Magalong's decision to step down from his role at the Independent Commission for Infrastructure, or ICI. Meanwhile, following the budget reallocation prompted by anomalies in multi-billion peso flood control projects, President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. promised to safeguard the public funds. President Catarong has more.
Malacanang conveyed its regret over Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong's resignation as Special Advisor to the Independent Commission for Infrastructure, or ICI. However, Presidential Communications Office Secretary Dave Gomez stated that the Commission will continue its mandate to ensure transparency and accountability in government infrastructure projects. Magalong resigned as Special Advisor to the ICI through a letter addressed to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. last Friday. The PCO chief emphasized that the public's trust in the ICI is more important than any individual and that the Commission should be allowed to perform its duties without political interference. The ICI was created through Executive Order No. 94 issued on September 11. It is tasked to investigate irregularities in multi-billion peso flood control and other infrastructure projects over the past 10 years. Meanwhile, Marcos Jr. vowed to protect public funds and ensure they are properly used for the welfare of Filipinos. He also guaranteed that abuses in the implementation of multi-billion peso flood control and other infrastructure projects will not be repeated.
Titiyakin po natin na hindi na po mauulit yung ating nakita. Titiyakin po natin na bawat sentimo na pera ninyo, hindi namin pera ito, pera ninyo, na ibinahagi ninyo sa mga opisyal ng pamahalaan.
He also stressed that the government only acts as a custodian of the people's money, which should be used to improve the lives of Filipino families.
Kami po ay kung tawagan ay custodian lang, tigabantay lang kami sa pera ninyo. Hindi dapat hindi amin yan, sa inyo pa rin yan.
Marcos Jr. previously announced the realignment of 255.55 billion pesos allocated for locally funded flood control projects under the Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, budget for next year. The funds will be transferred to priority programs of various government agencies, including 35.91 billion pesos for the DSWD, 26.55 billion pesos for DepEd, 39.37 billion pesos for DA, 29.28 billion pesos for DOH, 60 billion pesos for PhilHealth, 9.3 billion pesos for CHED, 1 billion pesos for TESDA, 450 million pesos for Philippine Science High School System, 3 billion pesos for DOTR, 18 billion pesos for DOLE, 5 billion pesos for NIA, 2.5 billion pesos for DICT, 4.62 million for DOE, 135 million pesos for DOF, and 4 million pesos for DNR. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Creseling Catarong, SMNI News.
In 2005, Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy founded the Sunshine Philippines movement. A mission rooted in love for nature and nation. It began as an environmental and humanitarian initiative to reforest Mount Apo, once barren, now a thriving and beautiful place. Through his initiative, thousands of trees have been planted across the Philippines, bringing life and hope to communities. His advocacy, One Tree, One Nation, is also a movement that calls for unity in preserving the environment. Because every tree planted is a step towards unity, healing, and a greater future. Join One Tree, One Nation.
A Sunday service in Michigan turned into a tragedy after a gunman rammed a vehicle into a church, opened fire, and set the building on fire. At least 4 people are confirmed dead, including the suspect. Sara Santos is back for more news.
Authorities say the attack happened at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc Township, about an hour northwest of Detroit. Police identified the suspect as 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford from Burton, Michigan. Investigators say Sanford drove into the building around 10:25 in the morning, fired multiple rounds with an assault rifle, and ignited a blaze using an accelerant. At least 4 people were killed and several others injured, while 8 minutes later, police shot and killed Sanford in the church parking lot. Grand Blanc Township Police Chief William Renier said hundreds of worshippers were inside at the time. He praised both first responders and church members for protecting children and rushing others to safety. The fire left the church building a total loss, and recovery teams are still searching the debris. Investigators also discovered improvised devices at the scene and are looking into additional bomb threats in the area. Sanford, a former United States Marine who served in Iraq, had no publicly known motive, according to officials. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is now leading the investigation, calling the incident an act of targeted violence. Authorities say at least 7 victims remain hospitalized, 1 in critical condition. Police continue to piece together what led to the deadly rampage. Reporting, Sara Santos, SMNI News.
And before we end, may be inspired with the words of the sun. Guard your mind, soul, and heart, that they will remain upright in the sight of the Lord. And as we keep track of the countdown, there's only 87 days left before Christmas. And that's all for today's edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I am Franco Baranda. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.